Hey, world history students, Tree Hall here, and what you're looking at here is the short version of the video that I made on how to write the Unit 1 project. So I'm going to go ahead and drift through this. This is a significantly shorter video than the first one I made because I'm not telling the story, and hopefully this will give you a plan of attack. Well, actually, I promise you that if you watch this, this will give you a plan of attack on your essay. So let's go ahead and move from slide to slide here. Okay, let's start. Okay, so here's our essay topic. For Project 1, you will be required to write a detailed essay of 600 or more words explaining how nationalism changed the world during the 19th and early 20th century. In your essay, you will need to describe how nationalism influenced imperialism, political changes during the era, and World War I. And I also provide a number of links. This will give you information for your body paragraphs. So as far as writing your essay, here is our essay topic. Write a detailed essay of 600 or more words explaining how nationalism changed the world during the 19th and early 20th century. The first thing you need to do when you're writing an essay like this is turn the topic into a question with a question mark. The reason for that is that's going to clarify what you're going to be writing about in your essay. So your essay has to answer this question: how did nationalism change the world during the 19th and early 20th centuries? Changed the world in a very significant way. So the reason you turn the topic into a question with a question mark is because it clarifies what you're writing about, and also it gives you an idea of what to put for your thesis statement. Your thesis statement, which goes at the end of the intro paragraph, needs to give an answer to this question. It needs to say nationalism changed the world during this time by, and suggest something. Okay, now let's move forward. The next thing that you want to do, once you've turned the topic into a question with a question mark, you need to organize your essay. Now, sometimes your organization for an essay is given to you in the topic. Sometimes it is not. You'll notice in this topic that it is given to you. It says, in your essay, you will need to describe how nationalism influenced imperialism, political changes, and World War I. Now, whenever you're writing an essay, the first thing to remember is that an essay is a stylized piece of writing, like a haiku. If you write a haiku, you've got to have 3 lines. One is 5 syllables, one is 7, one is 5. This is the same way. All essays have an intro, a body, and a conclusion. The body is 60 to 75% of the total essay. And basically when you're writing a 5-paragraph essay, your intro and conclusion are going to be 2 paragraphs, because in your intro, you tell them what you're going to tell them. Then in your conclusion, you tell them what you told them. So a conclusion is kind of like a restatement of your intro. Now, that means that if you write a 5-paragraph essay, all you need to come up with are what are the 3 body paragraphs. Now, in this particular essay, you need to describe how nationalism influenced imperialism, political changes, and World War I. Now, you need 3 body paragraphs, and you've got to do 3 things. Do you see a pattern here? So in this particular essay, you're going to have an intro paragraph that introduces nationalism, and you're going to make a statement on how nationalism changed the world during this time. Your first body paragraph is going to discuss imperialism and how nationalism affected or maybe caused imperialism. Your second body paragraph is going to talk about political changes during this time and how nationalism influenced these changes. Your third body paragraph is going to talk about World War I and nationalism's relationship or role in that war. And then you're going to have a conclusion. So there's your essay. Now, this essay map, this is what I call that, an essay map. If you take a moment to write this down, or if you download the presentation and you look at this before you write your essay, this will cut back on the time it takes you to write the essay by 50%, because this just basically breaks this down piece by piece. So now let's take a look a little further. Let's take a look at more detail here. Okay, intro, conclusion, detail. Don't forget your introduction needs to do 2 things. First, it needs to introduce your readers to your topic. And second, it needs to answer the topic question. In this case, our topic is nationalism as it was seen between Napoleon and the end of World War I. Remember, nationalism is not just love for your country. It's kind of this competitive love for your country. Think of your country as a sports team. You not only like your team, but you want to see your team beat other teams. And that's what was going on during this time. Next, you need to answer the topic question. And how did nationalism change the world? And then in your conclusion, you need to remind your readers about the topic and then restate your thesis statement. So that's what needs to happen in the intro and conclusion. Next, we need to think about your body paragraph. Now, remember how you turn the topic into a question with a question mark? Overall, we're going to be writing an essay on how did nationalism change the world during the early 19th and early 20th centuries. Each body paragraph must address the topic question in a specific way. So remember how you have to discuss imperialism, political changes, and World War I? So basically what you have to do is you have to infuse nationalism into those three things. And here's what it does. Main point one, your first body paragraph or main point is going to be about a 6 to 8 sentence answer to this question. How did nationalism cause imperialism during the 19th and early 20th centuries? You read many lessons about imperialism. You got to see how European countries took over all these other little countries. You got to read the details. What you have to do in your essay is you need to link that to nationalism, describe it and link it. And then in main point two, how did nationalism cause political changes? You read about the Italian unification, the German unification, the Austro-Hungarian unification, and then this complex alliance system that ends up kind of causing World War I. You need to discuss that and link it to nationalism. What role did nationalism play in all of these? And last, how did nationalism cause or contribute to World War I? Now, again, you want to talk about the alliance system, militarism, self-determination maybe, and you link it to nationalism. The way to understand your body paragraphs is, remember, they are one paragraph answers. They are long answers to the questions that you see on this page. Now let's go into a little more detail. So let's talk about body paragraph one. How did nationalism describe imperialism? You have to do two things in each of your body paragraphs. You need to provide information about the topic, and then you need to explain or analyze how that information ties it to the thesis statement. So in the imperialism paragraph, you need to describe 2 or 3 aspects of imperialism. You could talk about 2 different countries. You definitely want to talk about the British Empire. Maybe you could talk about how the system worked and how the map of the globe looked differently. But basically, the 2 or 3 items you choose to write about need to give you 3 or 4 sentences. This is the kind of stuff you use Wikipedia for. This is the stuff you use those links I gave you. You go back to the lessons and you want to talk good detail here. Next, you need to come up with 2 or 3 more sentences that link that to nationalism. How did nationalism cause imperialism? Well, here's the simplest answer. If you are competitive and you love your country, you want your country to do better than other countries. And what better way to show that is your country has the biggest world empire. Empires mattered at this time because empire showed that a country was great. So what you want to do is describe that in 2 or 3 sentences. Now, let's again go back to this whole paragraph. A good paragraph is about 6 or 8 sentences. If you only have 2 sentences of analysis, you want to have 4 to 5 sentences of information. If you only have 2 or 3 sentences of information, you want to add lots of analysis. Remember, 2 things. Each body paragraph has to have information and analysis. In this body paragraph, your information describes imperialism. Your analysis is linking it to nationalism. Let's move to the next body paragraph. How did nationalism cause political changes? Now, again, remember that before Napoleon, most nations were governed by kings and queens. After 1848, most governments were modern. What does nationalism have to do with this? Well, remember, he took over all those countries. They lost in a war against him, and then they all wanted to have a better government because obviously their government wasn't working. Some of the things that you want to talk about in this body paragraph are the German unification, the Italian unification, the Austro-Hungarian unification, and self-determination. Just like the body paragraph before, 2 things. Provide information about these subjects over here, and then second, provide analysis. What was the link between nationalism and all of these things? For example, Germany was a whole bunch of itty-bitty countries, and Napoleon came along and he whooped them pretty easy because they were all these itty-bitty countries that weren't allied. After Napoleon, everybody says, you know what, we're tired of this. We want to be one united Germany. Well, what role did nationalism play? They got tired of being whooped in wars. They wanted to be the one that was doing the whooping. Now, this is the important thing about analysis. There's no right or wrong analysis. There's just illogical or logical. Your analysis needs to be logical. So in other words, you would say nationalism causes German unification because the Germans wanted to be a stronger country than they had been before, and they knew that unifying themselves would cause that. They wanted to be stronger because they wanted to be more competitive, because they wanted to be like France. They wanted to be a cool country. The Italians were the same way. The Austro-Hungarians were the same way. And in self-determination, these were all these itty-bitty nations that were splitting off from the Ottoman Empire. What did nationalism have to do with that? They wanted to control their own destiny too. They wanted to be great. Everybody wanted to be great. That's what nationalism has to do with all of this. Now you get to your third body paragraph. When you talk about the lead up to the war, that's the key to doing the World War I body paragraph. You want to talk about the lead up to war. So you want to talk about the things that brought people into war. The dissolution of the Ottoman Empire, because remember, the war begins in Serbia. Militarism, everybody had armies. I mean, the nation of Romania had a bigger army than the United States at this time. The alliance system, propaganda. There's a lot of different things you can talk about here. Now, again, in your World War I paragraph, you need to provide information and analysis. Talk about these things: militarism, alliance system, propaganda. Give the good detail. Look at Wikipedia. And then next, in 2 or 3 sentences, explain the link between these things and nationalism. How would nationalism cause a country to build up its army, to want its army to be bigger than the other countries around it? Well, remember, nationalism is all about competition. How would nationalism cause countries to ally themselves with each other? Well, we don't want to be the country that loses, do we? We want to be on the winning team, not the losing team. Do you see? It's pretty easy to do. Throughout this entire essay, what you really want to talk about is how this love for country and this competition between countries cause all of these different things. So with that, you have everything you need. So don't forget, you've got your essay map. Don't forget that your first paragraph needs to talk about imperialism. Your second one needs to talk about political changes. Your third one needs to talk about World War I. And throughout your entire essay, what you're really doing is you're trying to show how nationalism led to or caused or influenced all 3 of these things. When you look at the lessons that you've read so far, that's what you've covered: imperialism, political changes in Europe, especially in World War I, and throughout all of it is this idea of nationalism. So with that, you should be ready to go to write this essay. This is the short version of the video, so I'm going to let you go. If you want to watch the long version and get more of a bigger story, then watch that rough draft, because that will give you a better idea of how to write this in a bigger piece of the picture. But it is a longer video, and I wonder if that's what's causing people not to watch it. I don't know. But anyway, if you need help from me, let me know. Thanks. Bye-bye.